Welcome to the Legal Merry-Go-Round.
Welcome back to the Legal Merry-Go-Round with attorney Paul Samakow, a longtime personal injury lawyer helping injured people throughout the Maryland, Virginia area get treated fairly after an accident. I'm Shameika Rhymes, and today we're talking about what happens when a car accident occurs while you're on the job and why those cases are often more complicated than people expect. Welcome back, Paul.
Great to be back with you. Thank you.
Well, Paul, when someone is driving for work and they get into a crash, what changes compared to a regular car accident case?
Many, many, many. You've asked another wonderful question. Thank you so much. There's three things that are going on here. Number one is that in every state in the United States, there is a system of compensation called workers' compensation. So if you are on the job and you get hurt, no matter whose fault it is, it could be completely your fault. The law of workers' compensation in every state doesn't ask that question. You're at work, you get injured, check, you get compensated. Now, what do you get compensated for? They have to pay all of your medical bills, and they have to pay you a percentage, and most of the time it's about 2/3 or 66% of the wages that you would have earned if you had not been hurt and you were able to go to your job, do your work. Often some of these injuries keep you out of work. So individuals need to know that there is a system in place. They don't have to be concerned, is it their fault or what happened? That's not even a discussion. You get hurt, boom, you get compensated wages and all of your medical bills. Now, the next thing is how you get treated. And here, I'm a little biased because I've seen this. I've been a lawyer for going on 47 years. Insurance companies don't want to pay. Duh. Gee, what a surprise.
Right.
So what do? They send you to their doctor, a doctor who is on their payroll, a doctor who will examine you and say, you're not that badly hurt. You need 3 sessions of physical therapy and then get your behind back to work. When in reality, you need a lot more physical therapy and you're not going to be able to do the job. But these doctors are like what I call, pardon this, ladies of the night. Ladies of the night will do anything for money, and doctors will say anything for money, and they are paid handily. We bring these doctors to court, and we find that sometimes they make millions of dollars doing examinations and writing reports about people for insurance companies, which is multiples of the money they make in their medical practice. They are ladies of the night in the true sense. They are bought and paid for by the insurance companies, and their job is to minimize the payment for the insurance companies by minimizing the treatment that the hurt person needs. So that's a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
You are allowed to go to another doctor, and often the insurance companies will tell you, you're not allowed to do that. We're not going to pay for it. My response, bull Twinkies. They have to pay for it if the exam is reasonable. Now, there's a third component, and that component is that if you are on the job and you get hurt and the injury is caused by a third party, not your employer, not a co-worker, but let's say you're a pizza delivery driver and you're delivering a pizza to Mr. Jones down the street, and you're stopped at a red light and some yucklehead hits you from behind. You get workers' compensation because you were on the job. But you also have what we call a third-party claim against the yucklehead who rear-ended you. Now it gets fun. Now you can go to all the doctors you want to, not the ones that the insurance company tells you need to go to, in connection with the claim against the yucklehead driver who hit you. And the insurance company for workers' comp has to pay for all of that. At the end of the claim, when you're all better, you can play tennis again, you can do jumping jacks, you can play the piano, blah, 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 all the things that you used to do that you couldn't do while you were injured and recuperating. Now you make a resolution of your claim with the third party carrier, the yucklehead driver that hit you with his insurance. Then you have to pay workers' compensation back. If
Wow.
there's no third party claim, you don't have to pay workers' compensation anything. But because you recovered money in a third party claim relating to the same incident, the law requires that whatever workers' compensation gave you, the insurance company gave you to pay the medical bills and your lost wages, you have to pay those amounts back. But it keeps getting better. You don't have to pay 100% of it back. Typically, you only pay about 2/3 of it back. So it's a complicated process. It really isn't. But the main thing that I want people listening to this to understand is that if you're injured on the job, you have the right to go to your own doctor. That's critical. Again, I think medical care is a lot more important than uh, the discussion of the legal later on.
Right. Wow, this sounds I was just thinking it's like layer after layer after layer, like peeling back an onion.
Anybody listening to this, record this and play it over and over and over again and keep it somewhere. So if it happens, you have all of this information.
Absolutely. Well, so how do workers' compensation benefits interact with like the personal injury claim against the at fault driver? You kind of mentioned that a little bit ago, but can you break that down a little more for us?
Well, yes. I mean, initially there's going to probably be a hospital a visit, often there is, not always, or a visit to family doctor. And those notes and records are very important and they get put into the vertical of against the third party carrier, the Knuckleheads insurance company that hit you. Um, and then the workers' comp insurance will, send you to their doctor who is, insurance friendly. Um, and sometimes that can hurt the claim because that doctor says, this guy didn't get hurt that badly. So, in certain circumstances, when clients come into me early enough, I just tell them, hey, you have the right to make a workers' compensation claim, but you don't have to.
Mhm.
And so don't. Now, often, because they're out of work, they need the money, even though it's 2/3 of what they would normally have been making. They're not in a position financially not, to work and to wait until they can go back to work. If it's a couple of days, okay, no big deal. But if it's a significant injury or a construction worker and you have a broken leg, you could be out for a couple of months.
Mhm.
Not everybody can afford to not have a salary for a couple of months. So you're kind of, choice about whether or not you're going to get the medical care from uh, the workers' compensation doctor, again, whose design is to minimize and get you back to work as soon as possible. So, the hand that's feeding his mouth doesn't have to pay as much to you.
So speaking of those lost wages, how do the lost wages get calculated when someone can't return back to work after a crash that happened on the job?
Oh, that's easy. You get a paycheck. So if you get $600 every week, workers' comp is probably going to pay you about 400. If you miss 5 weeks, you get 5 times $600 is $3,000, and that's what we claim in the third party case, against Yucklehead Drivers Insurance Company, the full amount.
So does that go hand in hand with since it's on the job, do you have to take short-term disability or long-term disability in addition to the workers' comp? Does that make sense?
It does, and typically there's very, very few claims where there was going to be a claim for short-term disability, unless you have an independent insurance policy with some other group. Long-term disability, yes, that might factor in. A lot of times it becomes what we call Social Security disability. And again, that's a whole hornet's nest of discussion in terms of
Mhm.
making that claim because routinely most Social Security disability claims are denied the first time, the second time, then you get an attorney and they're going to consider it. And then the fourth time, maybe they pay it. So it's complicated, but just within the vertical of the workers' comp, the longer you're out, the more they'll pay you. So if you're out a week or two or three, again, everybody, every insurance in every state is a little bit different, but for a short period, they give you what I said. It's usually about 2/3. If it becomes long term, they give you a little bit more. It might be 75% or something like that instead of 66%.
Okay. So, since we're talking about the layers here, what happens if the other driver was also working at the time of the collision?
Well, if he was working for the same company, then you do not have a third party claim.
Hmm.
If he was working for another company, then it's got, that's like, who cares? It doesn't matter. But if
Okay.
he was working for another company, you have a claim against him and his company. But
Oh,
you only
okay.
can recover one time. I mean, if your case is worth $10,000, you could get that 10,000 from the driver's personal insurance or from the company's insurance. If he was driving, likely it's going to be from the company's insurance because the vehicle he was in was probably owned by the company. So,
Well, are there situations where an employer or company vehicle owner becomes part of the case?
yes, once in a while. I mean, so if you want to make a claim for failure to supervise, or claims that they should have never hired this guy to begin with, then it might be that you could bring in the employer. Someone with 16 drunk driving convictions and 20 speeding tickets that have been convictions probably shouldn't be a delivery driver.
Hmm.
But if that person is a delivery driver and that evidence comes out, yeah, I think that's a pretty decent claim against the employer, as that person should have never been behind the wheel working for your company.
Can you walk us through a scenario where a work related crash required coordinating more than one claim?
Well, yeah, I mean, what happens is they come to me, if it's early enough, and we have a discussion whether they want to make the workers' compensation claim or not. If they do, we send the notice to the insurance company for the employer, the workers' compensation insurance company that I represent, Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith, whoever the client is. And then I send a similar letter to the insurance company for the yucklehead driver who rear-ended my client. So we've opened two claims simultaneously, and typically we want to wait until all the treatment is done and then resolve them both at the same time.
Okay. Just off the top of my head, I was just curious about when, say if you are doing the workers' comp claim, will the insurance company or your job require, a representative to go with you to these doctor's appointments?
We like to send somebody to uh, the visit with the client if the insurance companies require what they call an independent exam. And it's not independent, it's a defense exam. And
Hmm.
it typically happens in the vertical of the third party claim where my client's doctor is saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G happened, and they, for some reason, want to challenge it and they want to send it to their doctor, who again is on their payroll. So we like to send somebody who can come in and just observe. And typically, what we find if we don't do that is that the doctor will go in, he has a chart, he looks off the chart for 5 seconds and says, "Okay, you're Mr. Smith." "Yes, I am." "Okay, are you injured?" "Yes, I am." "Okay, goodbye." He does nothing.
Hmm.
Or the exam is very short, and doctor will go over if even and put his hand on your neck and say, "Does this hurt?" "Yes, it does." "Okay, good, fine, goodbye." The exams are very short. The reports are boilerplate. They've already existed before the client ever got there. So yeah, we want to have somebody that is there to record it and then observe it so that if and when they want to use that doctor as evidence that the person wasn't hurt that badly, we could say, "Well, how do you know, doctor? You're only in the room for, 23 seconds."
Hmm.
And then we get reports that they've written for hundreds of others, and we can see that they're almost all identical. So yeah, we want somebody to be observing that kind of thing if it happens. And often there's a fight about it. You actually have to sometimes go to court and ask a judge for permission to send somebody in because they will resist having somebody else in the doctor's examination room.
Well, for someone who was injured while driving for work and they feel unsure about which direction to go, what should they know right now and understand right now?
That they have the potential for two claims. Again, this is not one of these DIY, do it yourself. You need the assistance of a professional, of an attorney who knows how to navigate, handle these cases, and maximize the compensation that you get from both the workers' compensation claim and from the third party claim against, again, I keep calling them yucklehead. I like that word. Yucklehead insurance that, rear ended you when you were sitting at the stoplight.
Okay. Now I'm going to be using Yokel Head probably the rest of the day. So thank you for that one.
I don't have a trademark for it.
I'm just gonna probably just say it when somebody says something.
There you go.
Well, Paul, thank you again for coming back and breaking this down for us so that we know what to do in the event that a crash happens while on the job.
Super. It was always a pleasure talking to you.
Well, that's it for today's episode of the Legal Merry-Go-Round. If you were injured in a car accident while working anywhere in the Maryland, Virginia area and aren't sure how workers' compensation and injury claims fit together, attorney Paul Samakow and his team are here to help you get treated fairly. To learn more or schedule a free strategy session, visit samakowlaw.com. And don't forget to like, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.